Grand Valley, again, about 10 years ago, made and then President Lubbers made a strategic decision to expand the campus and expand the campus downtown. And that has also taken over a lot of land uses that were sitting empty, or, again, in the case of our past industrial land use along the riverfront, that was another foundry operation that was removed. Again, that became now the centerpiece of the university. Not the least of which, as well, is what Grand Rapids Community College did, because when it moved from being a junior college to a community college, there was serious discussion of the board of trustees about physically relocating community college to a suburban location. And in fact, again, the combined wisdom of again, President Calkins in partnership with President Lubbers, the decision was made really to consolidate and keep the operations in the downtown. And I don't want to underplay that as an important component of an investment. I mean, it was not only the private and the other institutional, but obviously the educational investment. It just made a real big difference. I mean, you can't, and it all, as you start to see and get the idea, is with it being in reasonably close proximity, that clustering effect does have an effect of generating more street traffic and more nightlife, etc., which then helps support the entertainment facilities that we were passing through that Carol so affectionately calls bars. Yes?
How does Grand Rapids Community College compare to like other community colleges? Is it like pretty large?
Well, the enrollment, the question was, is how does the community college compare to other community colleges? Well, couple things. I mean, again, like a lot of community college, their enrollment has exploded. I mean, they too have almost doubled their enrollment in the last 10 years. They're I think at this fall, I'm going to guess that there are well over 15,000 that are enrolled in various curriculums and offerings. So, and about 2,000 of that, I'm going to say, is directly related to medical and medical sort of training and education. But I mean, they've upgraded facilities. We've affectionately closed a part of one street that has sort of created a campus sort of effect, and so I mean that is important. But the challenge has been is the conflict with parking. Frankly, I mean, community college is a commuter college for all intents and purposes. But it's also very interesting is that community college is wrestling with the demand for students who want to live downtown. And they've, in fact, helped purchase a building. And there are community college students who are actually living downtown, even though they're not part of a traditional sort of university setting. In fact, the folks tell me that there's a demand for at least 200 more housing units they'd love to have, again, that would be just suited and for students, and that was I don't know, that was last spring. I have no idea what it is now. The marketplace, they're sort of finding their way, and again, that starts to cause some of this conflict, I think, again, between do they live on campus or do they take a house like we're seeing outside our window and basically become part of that student housing stuff that a lot of cities and a lot of neighborhood people don't like. It's not. It's just because of their behavior, and they're out, in all hours of the night at entertainment venues, etc. Are you going to go over to Turner then? Is that what you're going to do?
You're going to tell him where you want to go.
Okay, why don't you go right to Turner? We're at the south boundary of Grandwalk. Grandwalk is a 1,200-acre mixed-use community of residential, industrial, and commercial uses, with some of what I will call is a lot of locally unwanted land uses settled and started in Grandwalk. Here's an example. I mean, here's a wrecking company, the Pitch wrecking operation, which has been here for a long time, took over a former foundry as well and expanded their operation here. But they are typical of a lot of other companies that ironically are located in Grandwalk that are recyclers. You've got metal recyclers, you've got fluid recyclers, you've got old machinery, pressed and tool and machinery. What they do is they buy old unwanted pieces of manufacturing equipment and they rehab it. They computerize it, they digitize it. I mean, there's a cluster of businesses within the Grandwalk area that its strength, in my view, is around the capability of recycling technologies. We're fortunate as well. I mean, this is another example of a locally owned former manufacturing. This was the Imperial Furniture Company that, again, sat empty for a lot of years. And now it's a privately run incubator is essentially what it is. The people who own this building, they also have a business in here, and they have a small furniture making operation where they are making furniture, frankly, for college campuses, for universities, for libraries and dormitories. In fact, Michigan State is filled with their furniture that's made here. Talking about the desk and chairs and so forth, that's pretty heavy-duty sort of stuff that has to be subjected to student abuse. As we go further north across the tracks and across the Indian Mill Creek, which was the subject of a student practicum project that we just did, the area was a whole series of dumps and landfills. What were landfills? If you can imagine that as we cross by and through this next intersection, that everything on your right-hand side, all the way to the river, was filled, was landfill. They were a series of private and public landfills, what are called landfills, or what many of us would call dumps. That's what they were. I mean, people could literally drive their cars up and unload stuff at the Turner Street dump. It was also a Superfund site, another Superfund site that's been successfully reclaimed. This was a little more complicated because there were battery acids and so forth that were leachating into the Grand River. But what's happened and what I'm working with these businesses here again around auto recyclers. There's a half a dozen auto recyclers, and if you sort of look around, I'll try to point them out. But these are skill sets that are very, very necessary. One of the biggest recyclers is Padnos. That the Lewis Padnos, the Turner Street, or what's called the North Yard. It's a very large operation on this side of on your left side. Now, again, what we're trying to do is as opposed to the materials that are being recycled simply being collected and packaged and then exported out, we're trying to break the chain of export by keeping the recycled materials here and transforming it into new product development. I mean, that's the real economic development. It seems to me that the value of the sustainability initiative in Grandwalk is building on the competencies of, one, that these companies are locally owned, two, they're family owned, three, they're multi-generational, four, they're profitable. And they, and maybe the fifth element is that these companies, they know what they're doing. If they didn't know what they're doing, they'd be out of business. I mean, here's another one. The Baker family. This is one of 4 operations that they've got here in Grandwalk. I mean, they're enormously successful. I mean, they've been around since the 1920s. Again, the area over on your right was all reclaimed area. Again, it was just a horrible series of landfills that, again, as I've told the story when I was a kid, I mean, literally, the river was almost on fire. It was our version of Cleveland was right here. And you had all these dumps, you had tire burnings and whatnot. I mean, the way you abated mosquitoes was you started the tires on fire, right? I mean, that's what we did. Now I'm working with these property owners actually on the conversion of the roof spaces to include a solar element that will then produce energy not only for those buildings, but as again, as we are trying to long-term.
Watch your left here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know, these railroad tracks are an important element. I mean, again, to me, it's part of that transportation network that's vitally important. And we've got Padnos, as an example, has about 2,000 car loadings a year, so that rail becomes very important. Working with the county for them to relocate their recycling facility in here as well to add additional synergy and being able to work with the private property owners as well, and it increases the diversity of materials that we're collecting, sorting, and ultimately processing for reuse. Now we're really at sort of the north end of Grandwalk, so we've got this property in between. You've got the former General Motors plant that's down, and we're going to go by that. And then we've actually got an elementary school that's here as well that we're coming up to on the left-hand side. If you think about it, I mean, this school is really in the wrong location. I mean, it's really removed from the residential area. I mean, you know, when this school was built back in the 50s, I mean, we were sort of out in the country. It was an odd location. I still haven't found anybody who's given me a real clear answer, but the thought was that this area to the north was going to be a booming residential area, and it never really quite took off. The booming residential took place on the other side of Alpine, which is a major street that we're coming up to. You know, Meyer is another major corporate player within Grandwalk that we're coming up to their store.
Turn left?
Yeah, turn left on Alpine. Now, I've been working with people from Meyer, and I haven't told Carol this, but there's a lot of things I don't tell Carol. But, I mean, this is another one, but they're going to introduce at this store. I approached them, again, when they were going to spend almost $20 million to rehab that store, to try to green it up and be their example, to be a sustainability initiative. And, well, they already were underway, but I guess what I can say this publicly is that they're going to be introducing their first, you know, as you go into a grocery store and you use plastic bags for groceries, we're going to use this store as a test market for a biodegradable corn-based plastic, I'll call it corn plastic, basically. So, okay. Now, if we could, Carol, anywhere you can get them to maybe just pull off to the right over here into the parking lot would be great.
To the right or to the
Yeah,
left?
no, to the right, just to pull into the parking lot here. Once upon a time, this facility across the street employed 4,000 people, and it's not unlike, major industrial facilities in a lot of urban areas. But again, think about it. When this was built in 1941, the first element of, this place was out in the middle of nowhere. None of this existed. None of this commercial development along Alpine existed. And General Motors, it was what they did here is they made fuselages and engine components for the war effort. That's what started it up. The oldest building is the building that has these silver structures up on the top, and it's about a 230,000 square foot building that, again, General Motors continued to operate it as a Fisher body facility where they made seat assembly units. And then in, I forget my timing here, but probably in about 1993, they ceased operations and they sold this operation to Lear. And then Lear operated and had its own sort of facility, and ultimately we went from 4,000 to, at the point of closure, there were only 120 people working here. And then a year ago, December, this was privately purchased, again, by a local developer. We did, to try to incentivize this facility, I worked with folks from the other side of the state as well, and we included this property as a Renaissance zone. I worked with the legislature, and we got the property designated as a Renaissance zone, which really did help to promote the viable transformation of this property. So that's what's beginning to happen here, is that, again, a local developer and again, you can see some, but I mean, General Motors and Lear kept the property in pretty good shape, but it still had a lot of environmental issues as well. So the idea is to transform it into an industrial manufacturing incubator, and then the stuff out in front here is to eliminate as much of this parking as we possibly can. Pull the commercial development up to the curbside to give it sort of an urban feel. And we're trying to also incorporate in this area, again, even a housing component that would be above the stores. The idea being, again, to try to make this area look like a neighborhood, like it's a neighborhood center. It's going to be tough. You got 5 lanes of traffic. I mean, anytime you've got wide roads, I mean, those that look at sort of urban land use, you know the detrimental effects that are associated with this. If you look at it, I mean, it's real easy to go 40 miles an hour. I mean, it's straight as an arrow, 5 lanes wide, It was meant to handle a lot of traffic. Well, it's never handled anything close to the capacity that it could handle because of the size. I mean, a lot of people use the expressway. I mean, but it's another link between the expressway to the north and if we go back over. So this transformation is going on. There's a series of environmental stuff that's going on with tank removals and creosote blocks that line the floors on the inside here. And again, there's some of the tenants are already operating, and then other tenants will be forthcoming as the space gets ready. So I don't know. What else do you want me to say right now?
Shall we go to Richmond Park?
Sure. So we need to.
What time do you have? 20 after 10? Okay. We got plenty of time.
Okay. We need to. We'll go up to the light and make a left. Actually, I got a better idea. Let's go through the light, go underneath the bridge up to Panel, and then turn to the right. There's some construction up ahead here, but we can get through. Trust me. All right.
Oh, the bridge is closed.
She consented. Did you hear that? I said trust me, and she agreed. I mean, this is so typical 60s sorts of development. You put the parking in the front. You note the narrow sidewalks. I mean, and the sidewalks, of course, are right next to the road, and it's like it's an after effect. It's not pedestrian space. And ultimately, as we work with these scrap dealers and these recyclers on more enlightened business practices, I mean, part of the infill development will be capturing that space as well. Again, we go up into an area. Again, a lot of people have no idea that this place even exists. So we're right on the border between Grand Rapids and Walker, thus the name Grandwalk. So another success story, I think, is that we've got this 20 acres of a former manufacturer that was the McDonald Industrial Products, and worked with a company, and I'll show you where they're currently located. And we've relocated. Well, they're in the process of relocating. As you can see, they're taking over. This was a classic brownfield location. I mean, there's lots of nasties in the ground, lots of stuff in the groundwater. And again, we're successfully incorporated. It is a brownfield project that they're getting some tax credit relief. It's also a Renaissance zone, which has also been very helpful. Behind there is there's 3 other scrap yards that you're not going to see them, but they're directly behind this frontage that we're going on. Again, and they line the creek, and they actually are across the Indian Mill Creek from Richmond Park, which is another area that we're gonna go to. But it sort of has a country feel again. I mean, you start to look around, you see some lots of trees and stuff, and you sort of wonder, if you look back up in here, there's actually along the creek is some very, very lovely greenway area that, again, I think is an absolute asset to bring into the community redevelopment effort and renovate and recapture. You know, there used to be farming that took place right behind these houses. These were a lot of small farms, family operated. Again, in fact, I got another call from one of the property owners along here. In fact, I can still see he's still doing some farming down here. We're in the city of Walker right now. And then we're gonna morph sort of into another land area of industrial land uses, which again I think also presents an interesting opportunity for what we call industrial symbiosis. Simply utilizing of one company's waste as another feedstock for another company's operation. And that's these the greenhouses that are operating here. It's again family-owned operations, multi-generational. It's a real building block of foundation to support. These guys they supply virtually all of the poinsettias and lilies to Meyer. As you can see, they got some big buildings here. What do greenhouses use? What do they need? They need heat. Obviously, on days like this is wonderful and this is easy. When it's colder, it's a lot more of a challenge. I mean, even operating and trying to keep 60-degree heat is tough to do. The advantage that we have, I think, is the Betts Industries that's over on the right, which is a foundry. What does a foundry generate? Heat. How do you capture that? You got to capture it and transport it across. So it's another project. Again, if you see the topographic differences here, you can begin to see it's not all that difficult. I mean, technically, it's not that difficult to do.
They pipe it under the ground.
Pipe it under the ground. It becomes like a district heat system. It's just like the district heat system we've got in the downtown. There's no reason why, in places in Sweden and Denmark, I mean, that we can't do the same thing here in a different setting. It doesn't have to be just simply and solely in a downtown location. So this is this Indian Mill Creek again, which is this beautiful, beautiful body of water. Again, there are informal pathways on both sides of the creek, especially as we go back and it drains into the Grand River. So the first phase of the work that the students worked on this year as the urban planning students practicum was the development of a master plan for a greenway between this road and the Grand River along the creek. There's another asset. This is a Catholic high school. So we've got an elementary school, we got a high school. These are in some of the other planning efforts that we've initiated. We've actually written them into our plans for future master planning efforts as well. They're going to help us. Got to get those stakeholders to buy in. Go left, right?
Should we go left?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm hopeful that the construction is done that week, and when I left last week, we couldn't get through, so we'll see. I mean, the guys, they're probably done now, but
On Richmond?
yeah. Now, we're at the high point. We're rising up to the high point. You can sort of look forward and look beyond me, and again, you get the idea. We're going to be driving down. We're going back into that river valley. But again, a nice mix of affordable housing that's back in this area. It's very important to keep this intact. I'm frankly surprised that there hasn't been more developmental pressure to acquire these properties and to start to clear them out. I mean, obviously, we've got the full array of infrastructure that's here. These houses are really, I mean, the property, I mean, you could buy these houses for less than $100,000 pretty easily. You've got these cemeteries. There's two different cemeteries that are in here that I think again are frankly our assets. They're not going to grow anymore. It's going to be another sort of infill opportunity. But given the green space and the ability that just beyond this is the Indian Mill Creek, so it's already amazing to me how many people use this as recreation space. I had a woman come up to me the other day. And I was amazed. She was telling me how she rollerblades through here. This is a woman in her 50s. She's telling me how she's rollerblading through the cemetery. I'm like, hey, Richmond Park. This is a major. Oh, good. We can when we go up to the first road. Let's make a left hand. It looks like we can maybe get through. I'm not sure. This is
This is such an underutilized park. I mean, it's a great park, but it's been underutilized. So that's what we're
Well,
doing.
they're paving,
Right
so-
now, too, is that help
we can maybe we could, if we could just stop on that pad. We don't have to go in, but if we could just at least turn the corner, and then we'll stop right there. Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah. There. This is an area of a major what we call a stormwater sanitary sewer separation project, and so this has all been being torn up and whatnot. And it's again, Grand Rapids is spending over $300 million of its own money to frankly to do a separation of groundwater, stormwater infiltration into the sanitary sewer system, and this is just another part of it. But Carol's right. I mean, as another engine for economic redevelopment is the better utilization of this public park. This is a public park that's been in the city's ownership since the 20s. There was a building that was built in a swimming pool, a major swimming pool that was built. It was a WPA project. No, we don't need to go through. I'd rather not. I think we're all right. When we're ready, if you want to either turn around or we'll back out. But there isn't very much traffic, so we should be okay. There's like 230 houses that are right back in here. That again, another part of our Grandwalk initiative is these houses average a little higher in price. They average about $120,000. Most of them were built post World War II. The exception being a couple of houses here on Richmond, but the bulk of the houses back in here. Now, again, critically important that we keep this local ownership, we keep the home ownership intact, and keep the housing affordability intact. Part of it is just simply marketing and promoting it. But the advantage we think, again, with what we're trying to do in Grandwalk is to provide the opportunity where the people who live here can actually walk to work. I mean, do it on a grand scale. So it's this combination of working again with the businesses that, as we have talked to them, is this: when you get ready to hire somebody, give an advantage to somebody who lives in the neighborhood as opposed to somebody who lives 20 miles away, if you can do that. And it's largely lining up the skill bank and the assets of what's here with the employers that are here. Yeah, talk some more about the park. Okay, I think we can back up
Wait
now.
till the green light.
Yeah, we put the light. It'll change here in a minute.
Which way you want to go? For
We'll go that way. Yeah.
Now, if it were nice out, it's okay, it's green. If it were nice out, if we weren't dressed a little differently, we'd go walking along the creek.
It would give us that other perspective again, because literally across the creek, literally across from the park, are these junkyards again. It's just crazy land use that was certainly perfectly acceptable once upon a time, but and again, I don't want the businesses to go away. It's just we want to try to help them transform how they operate and to be more responsible in their land use.
I was going to ask about how the product group were talking about all the other amenities to add along that walkway.
Yeah.
Rest stops or little areas,
Yeah.
walkers, and then what they were talking about adding addition to the park.
Well, adding an addition to the park, and it's just simply on a lineal sort of basis, as opposed to. Carol, I don't know how much more do you want to try to see?
What time is it?
10:30, I guess, probably.
Wow, we got an hour to go.
Then why don't we go up by Jedco and the Imperial Metal? We'll turn left on Broadway.
Okay.
Why don't we do that? The city doesn't have a lot of money. I mean, the city is not, and our strategy again with Grandwalk has always been is how much of this. I'm sorry.
Which city?
This is Grand Rapids. Now, if you get on the other side of the creek, you're in Walker. So,
They don't have a lot of money. They don't spend.
All right. They got a lot of money. It's just how they spend the money. You know, that's a whole different issue. The Grandwalk initiative, though, I mean, we're going to try to do as much of this as we can without impact upon the municipalities. I mean, we're not saying that this has got to be a publicly driven sort of redevelopment option. We want to try to do this as much as we can, utilizing, again, private resources, and just trying to influence the decision as to how and where and when people make investments. You know, it's just like Preston Tool. I mean, again, when I started working with them, I mean, they frankly wanted to do parking in front, and they wanted to take the building and put it on the back end of their property. And I suggested to them, I said, you know, you could really help us, and I think you could help yourself from an identity standpoint if you made the investment closer to the road, just so that people could see what you were doing. It's important that people see investment. I mean, it reinstills confidence again in what they're doing. It's another company on the left here that we're gonna turn the corner and go in, but Jedco is the same way. I mean, you know, it's an industrial operation, and what they do is they make engine components, and they make turbine blades for Pratt Whitney jet engines. And again, that addition, as an example, they wanted to clear out a bunch of houses to put the addition in. And again, I've worked with this company for a long time. Simply just said, well, you know, looking at the land uses, maybe if you put it up on the front side, and it's the same sort of thing again. And you know, there's no regulation that told them or made it do it. I did it, frankly, by persuading them to do it. But you know, they cut their grass, they maintain their grass. It's just like the guys who do this. I mean, they've got these flag poles, they cut the grass, they did some modest landscaping. I mean, those are important elements for people to see. And it does provide a sense of belonging. And at the same time, you see, you've got these other conflicts, I think, in that you've got you got two residential houses that are stuck between a couple of, you know, really three different industrial operations. You know, in my opinion, from a land use standpoint, this block has tipped. Let it go industrial. I mean, you know, and frankly, Jedco has acquired a couple of the houses. They relocated the people. They didn't want to require to. They just did it. This is a bar. This is one of my favorite bars. It's called the Point Bar. Yeah, okay, so they serve burgers and so forth, but yeah, and then we'll go up, and then maybe right at the guardrail, why don't you stop on the bridge?
Hey, Rick, who do you work for?
Huh?
Who do you work for?
I work for the Right Place. It's a not-for-profit economic development organization.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't work for the city. I don't work for either one of the cities. You know, I worked in Muskegon, you know, for 15 years, which frankly helped, I think, give me a lot of practical land use knowledge, as well as just understanding as to how government operates. That's been invaluable, and obviously in working. Now, this, you know, again, when I was a kid, and there used to be a road that the road went across the railroad tracks and it connected to Ann Street, and then you'd zoom out to Alpine Street. And again, there were these old rickety wooden bridges. There were actually two of them right here. But this is a tough area to try to figure out what to do. I mean, again, we've got this dream of a greenway along the creek, and yet you got this intersection of bridges, roadway, railroad. You know, this is not easy stuff to try to figure out. But, and in most people, it amazes me, you know, again, they don't even know the creek is here, because you wouldn't think it was here. You got all this other stuff that are, you know, sort of confusing. I mean, it looks like an area that isn't people space. But that, again, connecting the space back to Richmond Park, connecting this space back to the Grand River. I mean, again, getting people out of automobiles, being able to, if they live here, to be able to walk across the street with convenience. I mean, you know, we've got these bridge connections. We need more of these bridge connections, not for automobiles, for pedestrians, for bikers. When Carol and I were working with the students on the practicum project, the MSU Urban Planning Practicum project, we came out here one Saturday morning, and and it was pretty early. It was about 8:30 in the morning, and it had snowed the night before. And I tell this story, and in fact, some of the photos that the students took, you wouldn't believe already at 8:30 in the morning how much foot traffic there was where there is no sidewalk. I mean, I was just amazed. It just reinforced again, I know people are using the space. And, you know, then we've got to accommodate that. I mean, there are these natural patterns. You go across this bridge. I mean, this is a typical example. You go across the bridge, the sidewalk ends. I mean, does that make a lot of sense? I mean, people still use it, but then for God's sakes, let's make it safe space. If they want to go up to Alpine, then let's, you know, make sure that we've got adequate crossings here. You know, there's something akin to a sidewalk on the other side of the street, but again, you know, it's not maintained. It's so close to the road and whatnot. I mean, you wouldn't even think it's there. In fact, I see some people walking. Amazing. But we ought to have it on this side of the street as well, and then ultimately this greenway along the creekway and connecting it, I think, is the other real asset. Again,
Well,
go ahead.
let me talk a little bit.
Do you want to get off? I mean, maybe people are tired of sitting. Do you want to get off for a minute?
Take a look.
Yeah. Might as well. We got a few minutes. Let's just get off. Yeah.
Where would it go in their design? It would be part. This bridge would be part of it. Or?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we haven't, as you know. I mean, I think there are options for both going underneath as well as utilizing spaces up above. I mean, there's no reason, again, as an example, if we just take advantage of the natural flow of the creek, that you come underneath the bridge. I mean, the beginnings of almost a stairway are already there, right? So that people could come up.
Yeah.
I mean, these wing wall constructions that really in certain strategic locations, I mean, they were built obviously to stabilize, so you could build these bridge structures across without the water eroding it.
Right.
You know, take advantage of it again. You know, I mean, the rail is not going to go away. I mean, and I think that as again in the long term from a transit standpoint, I mean, this rail becomes really, really critical. I mean, there's a I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but I mean, there's actually a track there's a spur that spins off right in front of us.
Yeah.
That track goes to downtown Grand Rapids.
Really? How far?
Mile or 1 mile from. It goes right by the Grand Valley campus. It goes. I'll show you. In fact, on our way back to downtown, we're gonna follow that railroad track. We're gonna follow it. The who?
I said, where's this foot traffic coming from?
Foot traffic.
There's no.
This residential area. There's a big residential area. Again, you'll get I'll call it it's on the south side of Richmond Street, but it's a long established, very dense urban residential area. We'll drive through it on our way back.
Going to where?
Yeah, what's over? What's the?
Well, as best I can tell, I mean, there are some people who are walking to work, but then there are other people who are walking to Alpine. They're walking to go to the Meijer store. I mean, that's a bit of a hike. I mean, I don't know where else they're going. I mean, I haven't physically followed people to see where they're going. I'd love to know. I mean, it's a great question because I think that's another point of understanding the dynamics and then accommodating them. I mean, you know, I mean, we should help make that an easier, safer environment. But it is. We've got this confluence of the highways, of the rail, of you know, pedestrian movements, and again, it's how best to capitalize on it. I was just pointing out to June that again, another effort. There's a spur line that breaks off, and there's two lines. There's a line here where the railroad crossing is, and there's a line over here, and it goes right through and back to downtown as we are working again on a longer-term master planning effort involving transit. What we put out here is, again, you know, do a park and ride lot right here, and think of a light rail system as being here to take people into downtown. I mean, you know, it's not that crazy of an idea, for God's sakes. I mean, we've got enough synergy and enough economic activity that we can support this sort of stuff. You know, get rid of the parking lots. I mean, you know, the property downtown is too valuable. I mean, you know, that's why stuff is all structured. I mean, we're fortunate. I mean, I was in Los Angeles yesterday, and I got to tell you, it's the grossest frickin' place I've been to in a long time. The city sucks. I mean, it just does. They've got these surface parking lots everywhere, and they're downtown, and I just look, are you people crazy? It's indicative of their mindset. I mean, they're just nuts. I mean, you know, we ought to eliminate surface parking lots to the fullest extent possible, minimize it. You know, there is an area where we need to regulate. You do maximum parking, not minimums, maximum. I don't care if you got a 200,000 square foot building. We'll give you space for 50 cars, and that's it. You know, figure it out. Use the transit system. I mean, we've got these buses like this that are running all over downtown. You know, people don't have to park at the front door. It's a tough sell, you know, but I think ultimately, again, that's part of the connection from the neighborhoods back to the downtown as well. Keep the hub, but you got to make it practical. You got to make it affordable, and you got to make it, you know, have a diversity of connection points. And it is the trolley systems. People are still going to drive, but if I want to ride a bike or if I want to walk, it's a mile to downtown. You can't see it, but if we were over a little bit further, I mean, you can literally see the downtown if we were just back by the other fence over there. I mean, you know, it's that close. I mean, it's not inconceivable. Again, that as part of the connectedness of this region and the economic recovery that needs to occur in this neighborhood, that is another part of the connection feature.
How many people work downtown?
I'm sorry.
How many people work downtown?
Well, I'm not sure anymore. The number I'm using is 40,000, and I think because again, about 10 years ago, it was 32,000, and I'm just guessing that given all the economic that have occurred, that is somewhere around 40,000. That's a big number, you know, and again, it's I don't know, you know, what we do, we track the investment, and we track the square footage in the downtown. I mean, we know we've had almost $4 billion of investment in the last 10 years. I mean, like I said to you, I mean, there's another $2 billion that's going on right now, you know. But what we don't track is how many people are actually working there. Now, in the city's kind of squirrely about it, because I said the easiest way for us to get, I don't care, I don't want to know their names. I just want the raw numbers. I mean, you're collecting income tax on all these people.
Right.
You can tell us. I mean, so they're real cautious about that, and I understand that from a privacy standpoint. I say, I want raw numbers. I don't care, you know. So we do our own census, is what we do with the businesses, and we do track that, but it's not a. I'd like to have be a better refined number.
Yeah. What street is this across? Where are we now? I want to just Google this place. Google Map.
This is Ann Street.
This is Ann.
And Turner is up. And I mean, if you follow the lines of the utilities, there's the US 131 Expressway. You can see the overpass there, and then Alpine is at the traffic signals just beyond the tracks.
I don't know if you've ever done that, but I mean, Google, you can come in, focus right in on this area, really get a feel for it.
You can. Frankly, I think our aerials are better than Google, because Google, again, you lose a lot of the resolution. I mean, it
varies. Yeah.
The regional information GIS database and the mapping is frankly a far better.
It's getting better.
Yeah. All right.
But it's roughly Ann and Turner.
And rehab it. You can use the historic preservation tax credits. You can use the brownfield program. You have a greenway. You have the connection back. I think there's a population that would like to live in a building like that. So I've persuaded them, at least for now, to not tear it down. Let us work with you on trying to find a developer who will take on the property. Anyway.
Should we go down one of the residential streets?
Sure.
So we can go straight.
Yeah, straight ahead, and then just go across Richmond. I think we're on Hamilton, or no, we'll be on Elizabeth. So we'll just go on Elizabeth across Richmond. Yeah, it's another business. It's a plating operation, another Grand Rapids success story. It's another family-owned business. Again, we included them in the Renaissance zone. They put on a major addition. They stayed here. I mean, they were sort of the same opinion. Oh my God, the neighborhood's going to hell. I don't want to live here. I don't want to work here. They had a place optioned out in Walker, and persuaded them again to stay put, reinvest, keep their base here. Their biggest competition really is again our I guess I'll call it the offshore and the Mexican market because of the lower cost wage structures. But they're hanging on anyway. Now crucial. I mean, I get really torn. I hate to tear down houses, and I hate to be the one who would advocate it. But in certain instances and in some locations, I mean, these are not businesses that the manufacturers that are here are not businesses that are emitting stuff. I mean, they're not just. Yeah, that's fine. Go on quarry. That's fine.
Well, that's going to be some of the debate in the redevelopment of this area is what do we do with the housing that's here? How can we keep a good portion of it affordable? How can we work with the employers, kind of do employer-assisted housing? Can we develop some of those programs? That's what some of the challenges are going to be. But the family-owned businesses are just a huge asset for this area. They've been here so long, they care about their employees. So it's a real good base to work on.
There's very low turnover. So again, the new employment opportunities that come up. I mean, it's not a stretch. It's not like they have to hire hundreds of people because because it just these are steady growth sort of businesses and getting them to look at the neighborhood as an asset and not as a threat to you. I mean, look at these are great houses. These are fabulous houses. The people who live here, I mean, are great people. I mean, this is a wonderful, great ethnic mix of folks that are in here from old Polish and Lithuanian grandmothers and bushas to young aspiring African Americans and certainly the Hispanic population is also a growing figure. I mean, this is another, sort of a ethnic club that I spent a lot of time in as a kid, growing up in this neck of the woods. There's a community or a junior or a middle school that's just across the tracks on the other side. Another Catholic parish and a Catholic elementary school. Tore down a bunch of houses to make this happen, which was kind of crazy, but what they did.
The West Grand Neighborhood Organization area, and we've started to work with them to see how we can make sure we incorporate them into the Grandwalk project. They're very interested. We've got to start door knocking, trying to get feedback now and input from residents on the trail design and see where they're at on that whole development. These houses are great. Well taken care of.
Very nice. Beautiful trees.
Fortunately, there were I tell my war stories, but I mean there were literally thousands of chestnut trees in this neighborhood that chestnut and elm trees that were susceptible to diseases. So a lot of the maples that you see are actually post what was here. I mean they had these massive chestnut trees. I never found out why that was the case, but again, somewhere around the turn of the century, there were lots of chestnut trees that were planted in this neighborhood. But it is nice. I mean, the streets are narrow. It slows traffic. There's on-street parking. Usually there are alleys, but again, we're so close to the downtown. We really gotta fight to keep these neighborhoods intact. Let's make a right and go to Seward. We're gonna make a right, and when we cross over the tracks, we'll make a quick left at the traffic signal. It's again another one of the east-west commercial strips called the Leonard Street Business District. Certainly has not experienced the investment that Bridge Street has, that we've seen, that's closer to the downtown. But I think it's coming. There's some anchors. Again, if we had gone the other way, I could point out some stuff where we've had some other institutional investments and so forth. So, but this Seward corridor is another fascinating revitalization, I think, that's going to, again, be one of those links again between the downtown and the near-in northwest neighborhoods. The railroad track, again, that I was pointing out, this is the track that connects back to Grandwalk. Now, if you look down the track, we go right into the campus of Grand Valley. We go right into the downtown. I mean, you know, you may not see it now, but I do. I see 25 years from now, I can see a transit stop right there. I mean, I see it. I see it as clear as day. I mean, I can see it. I mean, there's a building already up here that'll serve as a depot and another transit stop up at Bridge Street. You know, American Seating is the company over on the left-hand side. There's a mass of buildings coming up on the left, and again, they were between deciding what to do. Do we stay in the city or do we move out? They needed to downsize. They needed to become more modern in their manufacturing. They needed to be in a single story. The result is they build a new factory and a new operation on the right-hand side of the street that's coming up here. And then on the left-hand side, what we worked with them on was the conversion again of this into housing. This is housing. I mean, these are rental units, and then there are condominiums on the wing that goes back to the east are condominiums. This is housing. These are rental units. These are beautiful units. These are some of the nicest units I think that exist. I mean, they're just absolutely gorgeous. Great views, as you can see. I mean, they opened up the windows. They preserved the integrity of the glass. This is all part of, now on the right-hand side, is part of the Israel's Design Center. This is an expansion again, a local guy, Bob Israel. He bought all of these buildings. There's like 5 different buildings in this area that he has purchased. He was going to tear it down. It was just a crap building, but you can see this guy gets it. I love working with him. He sees it. He's in the design business. I mean, he understands this stuff. I mean, the creativity that goes on in here. I mean, the people who come here and the people who work here, these are interior designers. The services that they're doing, I mean, this has become a design center second to none. It's like a design center between Chicago and New York. I mean, he's plowing millions of dollars back into saving these buildings. This is the operation that we're relocating. This is a family-owned operation that I pointed out that one factory site that we were relocating. This is where they're coming from. They're moving out of this neighborhood. When the foundry operated at American Seating, it made sense for them to be here. Foundry isn't here anymore, you know. So it's, again, didn't take a whole lot, didn't cost us a whole lot, designated it as a brownfield, gave them some tax credits, worked them through the permit process. God, I'm telling you, it makes a difference again. They're family-owned, multi-generation, locally owned, They see what's coming, and they're not standing in the way, and they're not trying to just hold people up. I mean, there are distinct advantages. Part of what I'm trying to do is just point out advantages. Provide people with different perspectives and different opportunities for the way that they can do business, for the way that they can even develop pieces of land.